Thank you for inviting me for the conference, although I will not speak about Slavs but about Jews, but we'll see some connection to the Slavic Congress. During the 1848 revolution, Jews in the Habsburg monarchy gained equal rights and religious autonomy for the first time. The historical turning point can be viewed from many perspectives. Considering the topic of this conference, I will focus on the strategies of Jewish elites to achieve the abolition of anti-Jewish discrimination norms and how to rebuild the Jewish society in the new era. Essentially, two approaches were available: cooperative interaction with a non-Jewish population within the revolutionary committees, or establishment of separate particular committees. The choice of strategy depended, among others, on the institutions and contacts available to Jews in different countries. In Bohemia, Jewish communities were highly dispersed. According to various statistics, there were around between 200 and 350 communities around 1848, mostly consisting of just a few families, and only 36 larger communities had their own rabbi. Moreover, the position of Jewish communities was weakened by the absence of any supra-communal and representative institution. The interests of the Jewish society were primarily represented by individuals from business elite. When Emperor Francis I visited Prague in 1833, the 54 most prominent Jews handed him a petition on behalf of the entire Bohemian Jewry, demanding abolition of discriminatory measures. The petition was led by traders Leopold Lemel, Josef Polak, Aaron Ber Příbram, and industrialists Salomon Brandeis, Leopold Dormice, Borges family. While among the signatories, there were only 4 representatives of Jewish communities and only 1 rabbi. The economic elite had long been striving for emancipation through various means of behind-the-scenes politics and direct personal appeals. Members of this elite also maintained contacts with the non-Jewish bourgeois elite within Prague associations such as the Industrial Union, Music Society, or the Bourgeois Club, Měšťanská beseda. Given this situation, it's not surprising that no particular Jewish platform emerged in Bohemia in the beginning of the revolution, and that the most significant personalities attempt to achieve Jewish emancipation through generally oriented initiatives. Leopold Lemel was elected to the St. Wenceslav Committee on 11th of March 1848, and later, together with 17 other committee members, carried a petition to Vienna which included a demand for equal rights for all religions. In the National Committee established on 12th of April, Jews were represented by Leopold von Lemel again, as well as Leopold Borges von Pontheim and Moses Israel Landau, the chairman of the Prague Jewish community. However, the limitations of this approach quickly became evident. From mid-April, anti-Jewish disturbances began to occur in Prague, which escalated into the plundering of the Jewish quarter in early May. The National Guard was unable to restore order and eventually had to request military support. Moreover, the bourgeois society began to split along national lines, and in early May 1848, Pavel Josef Šafařík voiced opposition to the inclusion of Jews in the Slavic Congress. Due to the dispersed nature of Jewish settlement, There was also little hope that Jews would gain significant representation in the planned elections to the provincial diet. On 11th June, during the Slavic Congress, 36 representatives of various Bohemian Jewish communities gathered in Prague separately and decided to establish a Jewish committee on 5th July, which was to draft a petition advocating for Jewish rights to the provincial diet. However, the next day, on 12th June, the Pentecostal storm broke out, and it threatened to turn against the Jews as well. In the end, it was Lemel who, alongside other city representatives, requested General Windischgrätz to restore order in Prague. Subsequently, both the economic elites and Jewish communities representatives lost a platform on which to advocate for the principle of equal rights. The National Committee was dissolved and the Provincial Diet was not convened. So the planned petition became pointless. The situation in Moravia differed significantly, primarily due to the presence of the Landrabinate, serving as the highest spiritual authority. On the one hand, Land Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch espoused Jewish collaboration with the liberal factions of Christian society. Concurrently, in mid-April 1848, Hirsch convened a general meeting of delegates from Moravian Jewish communities. This ad hoc, actually revolutionary gathering held in Nikolsburg on 21st and 22nd April 1848 led to the establishment of the Committee for Moravian Jewry. Its task was to draft a petition requesting the human rights for Jews. Furthermore, Hirsch soon had the opportunity to promote the principle of equality of all citizens directly in the Moravian Diet, to which he was elected at the end of May. However, Hirsch still relied rather on interventions with Moravian Governor Lažanský, and, for instance, together with the Jewish Committee, urged the governorate to cease collecting the abolished Jewish tax. In terms of further development, backstage politics proved more beneficial because in March 1849 it was the emperor, not the Diet, who issued the constitution and other fundamental norms. These norms guaranteed equal rights and religious autonomy. The Prague ghetto and Moravian ghettos were supposed to lose their political self-government, and the scope of Jewish communities was to be limited to purely religious matters. In response to these fundamental changes, again, Moravian Land Rabbi Hirsch promptly convened representatives from all Jewish communities to elect a new committee for the reorganization of Jewish religious affairs in Moravia. In August 1849, the committee published a proposal of statutes mainly addressing the financing of Jewish religious communities and outlining their organization into a hierarchical structure. At the top of this structure, new supracommunal institution was to be created, which was to serve as the representative assembly of the Moravian Jewish Society and the superior body of local communities. Despite the resistance of a quarter of the communities fighting for their autonomy and against the formation of a hierarchical structure, the General Assembly approved the statutes, and at the turn of 1849 and 1850, the Moravian Governorate forwarded it to the Ministry of Culture and Education with the recommending opinion. However, the ministry did not approve the statutes for the time being. The Moravian Governorate was instructed to issue only a so-called provisional decree on 13 September 1850, which regulated only the financing of Jewish religious communities. There were two fundamental reasons for this decision. Firstly, the situation in Moravia became complicated. As a result of anti-Jewish violence in spring of 1850, approximately half of the Jewish quarters did not ultimately join the Christian towns and continued to have both the status of autonomous political communities and religious communities, which contradicted the intent of the statutes. Secondly, the ministry waited to observe how the situation would develop in other lands. After the Jewish assembly in Moravia accepted the statutes, two Bohemian rabbis, Samuel Pražák and Angelus Kafka, approached the Bohemian governorate requesting a similar solution to be implemented in Bohemia as well. The Bohemian governorate accepted their arguments that not resolving the situation would lead to a religious anarchy, which would not be in the interest of the state. Based on the opinions of regional authorities, the governorate drafted statutes similar to Moravian statutes. On 25th November 1850, the drafted statutes were presented to delegates of the largest Jewish communities in Bohemia. However, when the delegates returned home with the draft, some Jewish communities were horrified. The proposal assumed that all Jewish religious communities would have to pay a large number of employees, regardless of their size, and also finance new established supra-communal institutions. As a result, delegates from 40 Jewish communities gathered in Kolín on 9th November, but before they could adopt any resolution, an officer arrived and dissolved the unauthorized assembly. However, in response to this assembly, the governorate made a concession and invited several more delegates from small communities to the assembly. Further discussion on the proposal took place from 16 December 1850 to 7 February 1851. However, significant conflicts between interests of rabbis and representatives of Jewish communities emerged. Additional disputes arose over the question of creating a hierarchical structure and supra-communal institutions. The final proposal of statutes ultimately differed significantly from the original governorial proposal. By a majority vote, the Assembly acknowledged the autonomy of Jewish communities while rejecting the creation of any central institution or hierarchical structure. Some delegates were unwilling to accept this and attached a votum separatum to this final document. The revolution ended in a failure for the Jewish society as well. Efforts to achieve equal rights through cooperation with Christian liberals ended unsuccessfully with the dissolution of the National Committee and the Imperial Diet. Although separate Jewish assemblies or committees continued their activities for a longer period, they did not achieve success. There were two main reasons for this. Firstly, the proposed statutes were accepted against the will of a significant portion of the Jewish society, and the Moravian and Bohemian proposals fundamentally contradicted each other. Secondly, after the issuance of the Sylvester Patents, the government postponed the entire matter of Jewish communities, and in the following years, some anti-Jewish discriminatory norms were reinstated. It was only after the fall of neo-absolutism that Jews were able to form a new assembly to discuss common affairs again. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you for this overview about the Jews in Bohemia and Moravia with these differences. And we can have some questions and discussions. Please.
Jews drafted constitutions, they reflected about their own constitution. Did they consider themselves as a nationality?
Well, it's hard to say.
That's the reason I asked.
The primary identity was religious in that time. So, and they, in Bohemia, we can see that, for example, Lemel balanced between Czechs and Germans. He had contacts with Palacky and also with Germans. So, but they actually did not express too much some Jewish nationality. They didn't.
But they had their own language.
Of course, they had their own language, and but the Jewish nationality is something special. It has long tradition, and actually, it didn't contradict to Czech or German nationality.
Did the Jews in Bohemia and Moravia use Yiddish, or did they use some other type of, they wouldn't have used Hebrew, would they? Hebrew was not...
I'm not specialist about the language the Jews used, not about Yiddish, but my impression is that Jews in Bohemia used German or Czech as a common language. Of course, in liturgy they used Hebrew,
yeah.
But in Moravia the Yiddish was more common between Jews.
They used the so-called Judendeutsch,
Yeah.
which later in the 19th century became to be called Western Yiddish. No such thing existed, of course. So the common language until the written language until the maybe 1830s or something like that in print was Judendeutsch, which was a variant of German.
Thanks.
So, one question, okay.
I have a question, maybe more compare. I think about Polish society, Jewish society in this time, like your lecture. And in Poland it was very popular special point of view for time 1848. First, in Jewish society, they were against. Second, natural and pro. Yeah, very technical. But depends. This point of views depends from which kind of Judaism they believe. When we think about Reformatic Jewish, they were very pro. But when we think about Orthodox, they afraid this uprising.
Mm.
It is only in Polish, or maybe it is typical for you, Bohemia or Czech.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Of course, the revolution was there, and Jews had to react. And for example, Samson Raphael Hirsch, he told to Jews, be aware of the situation, do not promote the equality too fast, wait a little bit, do not provoke the Christians. But of course, we saw that he was also the promoter of the equal rights for Jews. But I do not observe this related to whether they were more Reform or Orthodox.
Okay. Only one question. It is important for Polish tradition because in this time 1850-55, in Jewish society, the first time Jewish society used in synagogue Polish language. It was strange, it is amazing, because before Revolution they used German or Hebrew, not Polish. It was maybe a very special, pressing revolution to Jewish society in Warsaw, in Poland.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.